Welcome to the second video of chapter 3 of our Introduction to Java accompanying book accompanying videos. At the same time, if you're joining in from our YouTube channel, welcome to our channel. Welcome back to our channel, and we'll be focusing on an important concept. Again, one of the fundamental building blocks of Java, if you're trying to learn Java, is operator precedence in Java, right? So, basically, if you're learning Java, you've probably come across different types of operators. Rather, if you're learning any programming language, you come across these operators. We've discussed them in the previous video as well, including arithmetic, logical, relational, and other sorts of operators. But the question is, what happens when you mix all of them in a single expression? That's the question, right? And that's where operator precedence comes in. It helps us understand exactly how Java would deal with multiple operators in the same expression, right? So based on that understanding, we'll be moving and trying to break this down and get better clarity on operator precedence and how Java resolves multiple operators in a single expression. So let's talk about operator precedence. And while we're talking about that, let's add an analogy to that, right? A lot of you at this stage might have gone to mathematical classes, right? Let's not even talk about high school, but even, junior high, right? You might have dealt with mathematical expressions, and your teachers might have taught you how to deal with mathematical expressions that have division, multiplication, addition, subtraction on the same line, right? And that is the same case here, right? So you had rules like BODMAS or DMAS, where division, multiplication, addition, subtraction, to tell you exactly how operator precedence work. Similarly, as we discussed the multiple operators in Java or any programming language, and especially in Java, we discussed that in the previous video, we realized that there are many operators in Java, right? So if they are on the same line, just like mathematics, how do we resolve them? Or how does Java resolve them? So generally speaking, operator precedence in Java determines the order in which operations are performed in an expression. Just like math, as I mentioned just now, certain operators are evaluated before others. For example, multiplication happens before addition in mathematics, and similarly, there might be some rules around that in Java as well, and we'll be going over those rules. So if you look at the screen right now, there's a piece of code there which basically is there. Can you pause the video right now? I won't give you the answer, but you'll get the answer at the end of this video while we go over this concept. Can you pause the video and estimate exactly what the answer here would be, and we'll get back to that as at the end of the video. So now that we have covered that, let's basically let's basically presume that you've already come up with the answer. So I'll give you a quick justification here. So here, multiplication is calculated first because it's higher on the precedence ladder of Java. So that is 10, right? Giving us 20 because we then add another 10 to that. So that gives us the answer of 20, not 60, because multiplication always has higher precedence than addition in mathematics and Java both. Moving back to the next topic, basically, here we see the precedence ladder of the operators in Java, right? So this is the precedence level you'll need to have. This is the precedence ladder that you need to have an idea on. So the lowest precedence goes to assignment operators, and the highest precedence goes to parentheses, right? That's similar to mathematics as well. But here, what you need to notice here is that you need to remember or have a general understanding, or keep this on hand until you get that intuitive understanding of how Java handles these. Java handles the items on the top of the precedence ladder first and the bottom of the precedence ladder last when it's evaluating an expression, right? So you need to understand exactly how this works. Just like the mathematical rules you studied in junior high, this is the same case. These are the Java expression evaluation rules that you need to have an understanding of, because these are foundational building blocks that you'll be using to code in Java. So having a better understanding of these things would help you go a long way in getting a better understanding about Java. So I'm not going to go over all of the precedence ladder. You can pause the screen, take a screenshot, and keep it on hand. So and if you have the book, you can review that on our book as well. But like coming back to the conceptual aspects of what we discussed, right? So operators are at the top, are like we've discussed before, are first unless they're overridden by parentheses, which are undoubtedly at the top of a precedence ladder, right? So now we come back to associativity in Java, right? Some operators have the same precedence level. In such cases, Java follows associative rules. From most operators have left to right associativity, meaning they are evaluated from left to right. So you just need to remember if for example, addition and subtraction are on the same precedence level, and division and multiplication are also on the same precedence level. If they're on the same precedence level on the precedence ladder that we saw before, it's going to follow left to right. There's also right to left execution, but these are things that I won't go into too much detail on, because in the next video we'll be discussing associativity in Java in much comprehensive detail. So now that we have covered associativity, let's move on to the common mistakes and best practices around operator precedence that people face at beginner level, and that understanding that you need to develop to get to a point where you can not make those mistakes, because we've taught this many times. A lot of students make the same mistakes over and over again, and this is basically where we're trying to pick up the things that are most common and help you avoid them, and that would slowly become intuitive and you avoid the most common and silly mistakes at the beginner level. So the first mistake that we have is missing parentheses, right? We see this code here under mistake 1 that we say we have a y variable. This is 5 plus 3 divided by 2. We expect the answer here to be 4, right? And that's not because we don't know the precedence level. We forget. Even more expert programmers make these mistakes. We forget that because we presume 5 plus 3 and then divide that by 2, right? But the answer here is 6 because we divide 3 by 2 first. That is 1.5. 5 into 1.5 is 6. Somewhere I think 5 plus 1.5 is around 6, right? But the issue here becomes that is not the answer we were expecting, and that's contrary to what we wanted, right? And that is why adding parentheses to set up your own precedence level. The parentheses are the highest on the precedence ladder, right? But you can input them and add them to make sure that the expression is evaluated as you want it to be. So you can add a parentheses around 5 plus 3 and then divide by 2 to make sure that 5 plus 3 are evaluated first and handled first before division takes place, and the expected answer would be the one that you want, right? So similarly, and if you look at mistake number 2, that's mixing logical operators without clarity, right? So here we have added like true or false and false. What's the result? That's completely illogical in the sense, because logical and has higher precedence than or. So false and false happens to give false, then true and or false happens to give true. So this is a very, very complicated and annoying way to chain things together. So it's better you avoid doing that to make it less confusing. Always remember to use parentheses to make complex expressions clear, and that improves readability and avoids surprises that you don't want when your Java evaluates your expression. So let's wrap up this video. There's some key takeaways that you need to understand by the end of this video. Operators have different precedence levels. We have that precedence ladder that we went over. We need to use parentheses to control execution order ourselves instead of giving Java the authority to use its own execution order using the precedence ladder. We need to pay attention to left to right and right to left associativity. We'll go into more detail about associativity in the next video. And we need to avoid common mistakes by writing clear, concise expressions. So with that's it for today. Basically, if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe for to our Smart Architecture Programming, our YouTube channel, for more Java tutorials. And if you're following our accompanying book here, Introduction to Java book, you have taken one more step into the foundations of Java, and we'll meet you in the next video to push ahead and help you become a better and a professional programmer in Java. With that, we're going to wrap up and see you in our next video. Thank you.